How's it going, fight fans? Finally, the moment we have been waiting for. The return of Anthony Joshua is finally here, and on Saturday 1st of April 2023 in the O2 Arena, he faces Jermaine Franklin to regain redemption. The question that lies here is, will this be an easy match for Anthony Joshua? Or will this be a fight where Anthony Joshua will struggle?
The better he is, I can raise my game. And I look forward to the challenge. That's what I've been working for this whole time. I'm really locked in and focused.
Or have to put everything in to regain redemption and once again be known as a threat to the heavyweight division? Let's find out. Before getting on to Anthony Joshua and what he could do in this fight, let's study his opponent, Jermaine Franklin. Jermaine Franklin has a record of 21 wins, including 14 by knockout, and 1 defeat, which was from his previous bout against Dillian Whyte. What makes this fight between the two interesting is Anthony Joshua is also coming off a defeat from his previous fight, which was the rematch between him and Alexander Usyk, so he can regain his unified titles, and unfortunately for him it did not go as planned. Anthony Joshua was not too happy about the result of his defeat when it came to the judges' scorecards. He had a breakdown, did his emotional speech, and this showed us all how much the loss meant to Joshua. However, it's time for Joshua to get back up and redeem himself. One thing to mention is that despite Anthony Joshua not being undefeated, credibility should not be taken away from him, as having a loss does not mean that there is no potential. It just shows that life doesn't go your way sometimes, and it's all about getting back up from those defeats. If being defeated meant your career is finished, then there wouldn't be any greats, as the truth is the all-time bests such as Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman have all been defeated, yet they are still talked about in the boxing scene today. Now let's move on to Jermaine Franklin. His last bout was against Dillian Whyte in the Wembley Arena on November 26, 2022, and Whyte won by a majority decision. Despite this decision, the fight was controversial, with many scoring it as a draw or for Franklin winning. Jermaine Franklin showed his heart and he showed his willingness to be on top, which is what I see him doing against Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua, who has an amazing record of 24 victories, including 22 knockouts with 3 defeats. He does have pressure going into this fight, but not as much when he was champion. Now there's an advantage and a disadvantage to this. The advantage is he wouldn't have the stress of constantly securing his belts and would less likely be complacent, as now he's a contender and is more likely to have an underdog mentality where he truly wants to put in the best performance again and become back at the top. The disadvantages are that people don't really have much passion towards him as much, which is so unfortunate, as it just shows how bad losses can impact your boxing career. This is evident with the lack of ticket sales going into fight week, which is quite worrying, knowing that Anthony Joshua was once the biggest star the UK had ever seen. In order to make the heavyweight division more interesting and for Anthony Joshua himself to make a statement that he's back for the best, he needs to definitely win this fight against Jermaine Franklin by a knockout. Fans want to see a fight that's entertaining, that gives people an adrenaline rush, and this is the reason why people became huge fans of Anthony Joshua in the first place, as he had 18 fights in which he knocked out every single opponent, and people would tune in like crazy just to watch an AJ fight, knowing they will very likely see a knockout. We have to mention Anthony Joshua has a new trainer named Derek James and has left Robert Garcia. This adds an interesting twist, as having a new trainer could either work for or against you, and in this fight, if it turns out that Derek James is truly bringing out the best in Anthony Joshua, it'll be quite intriguing to see the changes and to see whether these changes will work for him to regain his championship belts when he gets his shot again. Derek James is an American boxer trainer and former professional boxer. He was voted Trainer of the Year by the Ring magazine in 2017 and by Yahoo Sports. Since February 2023, he is currently the trainer for Anthony Joshua. The fact that Anthony Joshua has once again changed his trainer shows that he is hungry and wants to get back up to where he once was. So I can definitely see a more ruthless Anthony Joshua coming into this fight against Jermaine Franklin. Derek James is a solid and a very reputable trainer, and he's trained well-known champions such as Jermell Charlo, who is the undisputed light middleweight world champion, and Errol Spence Jr., who is a phenomenal boxer and is currently the unified welterweight world champion. Another factor, as mentioned previously, is that Matchroom Boxing was struggling to sell tickets for the fight between the two. If it turns out that the arena is not full, could this lead to a confidence drop in Anthony Joshua's performance, as he's always used to performing in huge crowds, or would it work for him? That's also a factor to think about, which we hope he doesn't crack under. Now let's talk about how this fight goes. To sum up the points and break down this fight, how I see this fight going is that Anthony Joshua will start off using his reach and jab, keeping Jermaine Franklin out of reach, and also using combinations where he can land brutal body shots to break down Jermaine Franklin. Jermaine Franklin, on the other hand, as we saw with Dillian Whyte, will be adding pressure, will come forward and get under Joshua's jab to fight on the inside. He's very comfortable operating behind a quick jab. Franklin can also throw fast combinations and counterpunches at times, which have been very effective in the past. We've also seen Franklin is fast on his feet. He's constantly moving around, and this is an attribute Joshua struggled with in the past, especially in his Usyk fights. It'll be a very interesting matchup, and the main factor that dictates this fight is the mentality both fighters bring to the table, and I believe it'll all come down to who wants it more. From what we can see, both fighters are mentally ready, and both have a massive point to prove, as they both want a title shot and want to rise above the other. Both have been defeated in the last bouts, so coming to a conclusion and prediction summing the points up, I see Anthony Joshua winning this fight. It'll be a very close fight in the beginning rounds, but I am choosing Anthony Joshua to win by a knockout within 6 to 8 rounds. This fight will most definitely be entertaining, and millions, including myself, cannot wait for this fight. The question that arises here are, once AJ defeats Franklin, does he move on to fighting Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder? The future for AJ will be very interesting if he wins. However, if an upset takes place and Jermaine Franklin wins, does Anthony Joshua retire? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.